Part 1. The night the truth landed in my hands, I was 2 steps away from believing everything was real. My mind replayed the snap of my daughter's words, sharp enough to cut through 20 years of us. "You're not a real man," she hissed, the accusation bouncing off the walls like a grenade. Evie, my little girl, stood there, arms folded across her chest, eyes blazing with contempt as if I'd somehow ripped her world apart with my own 2 hands. Her lip curled in disgust, painting me as the bad guy in this twisted family drama. She was defending her mother, Linda, the same woman who'd tucked her into bed, kissed her forehead goodnight, and held her hand through scraped knees, never letting on that our entire life together might be a house of cards. And suddenly, it was. I didn't flare up. I didn't shout or sputter. I just reached into my jacket pocket and produced the 2 documents folded neatly inside an envelope, the DNA results and the address of the man who'd given Evie her blood. "Take these," I said in an even voice, sliding the papers across the table so they rattled softly against the wood. "And get your things. You have 30 minutes. Let's rewind." It started with a phone call a few weeks earlier, the kind that jolts you awake at 2 a.m. I fumbled for my glasses, thinking it was a robocall or some crisis, but the voice on the other end was too steady for either. Marcus, drunk, or so I'd assume, asked if I'd ever wondered why Evie didn't share my eyes, my nose, my laugh. He called me bro, like we'd been partners in something more sinister than friendship. I hung up, heart thumping, but the seed had been planted. Sleep deserted me that night. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the soft glow of the clock, watching Linda's chest rise and fall as she dreamed beside me. 22 years of marriage, my best friend, my rock, snoring without a care in the world. She was the love of my life, or so I thought. The next morning, I mailed off the hairbrush Evie used, $2.99 for 99.9% accuracy. I didn't mention a word to Linda. I couldn't. I needed to know if Marcus was a barroom crank or if my marriage rested on a lie. 2 days before our anniversary, the lab called. I tossed the phone aside, heart racing, then picked it up again. 0% match. I stared at the paper like it had punched me in the gut. My hand shook, but the tremor made me laugh, hollow and desperate. Not because it was funny, but because shock gave me no other tool. I raised Evie's braces bills, cheered at her graduation, soothed her tears the first time a boy broke her heart, only to discover she wasn't mine, not by blood. Linda had woven a narrative where I was the father, day after day, year after year. I couldn't confront her at the anniversary dinner. It was too theatrical. Instead, I dove into photo albums, cross-referenced calendars, hunted for clues in every snapshot of our happy life. That's when I found her old diary, tucked between journals from our early days. July 3rd. She'd written, "I shouldn't have gone to that club, but God, it felt electric. Marcus was waiting 5 men in rotation. He won't ever know. He's away on that work trip. 5 men. A rotating carousel of betrayal. When I'd been scrimping overtime to save for our first house, she'd been treating marriage like a casino. The next morning, I set the kitchen table like it was an altar. 2 plates of scrambled eggs, buttered toast, steaming mugs of coffee, with the DNA results at the center, the diary beside it. The moment she padded downstairs in her silk robe, all warmth and routine, I poured her coffee. "Morning," she said, blinking sleep from her eyes as though nothing had shifted under her feet. "Breakfast," I replied softly. "And a funeral." I nudged the papers toward her. Her brow arched. She picked up the results, then the diary. A bubble of disbelief passed over her smooth features before anger bloomed. "You read my journal," she snapped, voice sharp as broken glass. I leaned forward, elbows on the table. "I read the truth." "Oh, for God's sake, Alex," she said, using my name like a settling curse. "That was decades ago, before we were married. You're tearing our family apart over old mistakes." I closed my eyes for a heartbeat. It wasn't just one mistake. 5 men, 12 months of lies, and 1 daughter who isn't mine. At that moment, Evie appeared in the doorway, eyes flicking between us and the papers like a jury weighing evidence. "You're pathetic," she said, loud enough for the walls to hear. Linda didn't even flinch. She let out a soft laugh, the sound hollow. "You're really going to use a legal technicality to wreck 22 years? I sat back, cool as a winter lake. "Technicality? You betrayed me, betrayed her. Now she can meet her real father." Evie's glare could ignite steel, but I didn't flinch. I handed her Marcus's address. "Pack. Leave in 30. She stormed upstairs, slamming the door so hard I thought the windows might crack. Linda sipped her coffee as if she were reading about someone else's life in the paper. She sighed, setting her cup down with deliberate calm. "What's your plan, Alex? Lawyer up? Move out? Good luck. Half this house is mine. She didn't know I'd already met with an attorney. Didn't know the joint accounts were cleared in my name. That shifted off mine. Didn't know I'd been preparing day and night while she was crafting cover stories. I stood, voice steady. I'm done being your pawn. She stared at me like I'd become a stranger in her own home. And in that silent kitchen, it hit me. Things would never be the same. Part 2. I felt my old self go up in flames. I'm not begging anybody to cry with me, I said, voice low. I'm building a bonfire. Linda laughed, a brittle edge to it. You're pathetic. All this over one mistake. She paused, her confidence wobbling. 5 mistakes, I corrected, stepping closer. 1 lie. 20 years of pretending. She glanced at me, exasperation and frustration clawing at her features. Do you honestly believe Evie will stay by your side after this? Evie is my daughter, I said, tone cool as steel. She'll make her own choice now that she knows the truth. Truth you withheld every day. Linda's smile faltered, eyes narrowing. And what's next? You'll wear the hero's cape. My chest tightened like war drums. No, I replied, fists clenched. I'm the man who refuses to be anyone's fool. I'm giving you 1 hour to call somewhere safe, I continued, voice unwavering. After that, I'm changing the locks. She shook her head defiantly. You can't just kick me out. Watch me. I have proof, I said, pulling a small USB drive from my pocket. 3 recordings of our arguments, your diary entries, everything. Copies are with my lawyer and my brother, Ben. Her nostrils flared. You're disgusting. I'm prepared, I answered, watching her confidence twist into panic as she retreated to her phone. Below me, I heard Linda's voice crack, alternating between fury and a practiced sweetness as she dialed back up, old friends, maybe Marcus, anyone she thought would rescue her. At exactly 60 minutes, I climbed the stairs. Through the crack in her bedroom door, I spotted her stuffing clothes into a suitcase, no care to fold, just tossing shirts and dresses in frantic heaps. Her hands trembled, but the second she saw me, her face snapped back into smug defiance. You know you're making a colossal mistake, she said without meeting my eyes. Evie will hate you. She already does, I said, leaning against the frame. When she learns the full story, she'll hate you more. I stepped forward and dropped a manila envelope on her bed. Here, all the bank statements, photos from Vegas, dated 5 years ago, not 20, and a copy of your journal. Todd will love the details. Her blood drained from her face. Before she could reply, a knock came at the front door. We exchanged a look of disbelief. I walked down, opened it, and found a man in an off-the-rack suit with slicked back hair. Alex? I'm Todd. I represent Linda. I thought we could settle this amicably. He grinned, oblivious. She's not on the lease anymore, I said casually. Todd's expression shifted from patronizing to uncertain. He cleared his throat. She's willing to keep the car, a modest alimony, visitation with Evie if she moves out with you. I shook my head and pushed the envelope into his palm. No, she gets nothing. Todd blinked, then scanned the documents. His jaw tightened. Let me talk to my client. I watched him go. Back upstairs, Linda stood framed by moonlight, suitcase by her feet. I closed the door. Her posture slumped as though she'd lost her final bluff. I'm not your husband anymore, I said plainly. I'm the guy cleaning up the mess you left. She looked at me, tears stirring before she blinked them away. You were never enough for me, she whispered, voice bare. Too soft, too predictable. I married you out of fear. I allowed a small smile. Thanks for clearing that up. She gave one last shove past me and stomped down the stairs. At the threshold, she turned once. This isn't over, she threatened. I nodded. It's just beginning. Then she was gone. The empty hallway stretched out before me. The silence roared louder than her footsteps. For the first time in years, I felt something unfamiliar. Freedom. That night, I didn't sleep in grief or regret. I sat alone in Evie's room, the soft pulse of her old lava lamp painting waves on the walls, memories swirling like embers. I tried her phone again. It went straight to voicemail. By noon, she still hadn't answered. And as the afternoon sun fell through the curtains, I realized I was finally writing my own when-old version. I opened the door to Todd and noticed the faint scent of cheap cologne and nerves. He fidgeted with his tie. His handshake was polite, practiced. Settlement, he said, voice smooth. I cut in. There is no deal. She lost any right when she chose lies. He hesitated, glancing at the photos, Linda laughing with Marcus in Las Vegas 5 years ago, the strobe lights and endless revelry immortalized on film. His confident mask slipped. Todd showed up in a suit. Alex, she'll take car, alimony, and visitation if Evie moves in, he said. I handed him the envelope, bank statements, Vegas photos, Linda's diary. His grin faded. She gets nothing. Upstairs, Linda sat on the bed, phone abandoned. I'm not your husband, I said softly. I'm the one you underestimated. Tears welled. I married you out of fear, she admitted. Thank you, I replied. She zipped her bag. This isn't over. I turned. Just beginning. That night, I sat in Evie's room under the lava lamp's glow, among trophies. I called her to voicemail. The old me burned away. A new chapter awaited. Part 3. I stared at my phone, thumb hovering over the screen, until the single message burned itself into my mind. Don't contact me again. Just like that, Evie, my daughter, mine in every way that counted, had chosen Linda over me, over the man who'd taught her to ride a bike, paid her tuition, stayed up beside her hospital bed when the flu hit its worst. I sat there so long that the silence felt colder than any word Linda had thrown at me. When at last I moved, it was the garage. My hand closed around a bottle of Jack Daniels, untouched for years, and I cracked it open without a second thought. 2 hard swallows burned their way down. That was when my brother Ben called. You holding up? He asked, voice cautious. No, I said, voice raw. She's gone. Evie, too. Ben was quiet a moment. You've got evidence, right? He finally asked. Everything, I replied, answering both the question and the one he'd left unspoken. But she's slippery. She'll twist this any way she can. Watch your back, man. Linda's not the type to vanish quietly. He was right. Linda was a master manipulator, could have convinced a judge that ice was as warm as sunshine. But I wasn't scared anymore. I was done being the doormat. That evening, a faint knock echoed through the empty house. I opened the door to Kendra, an old friend of Linda's who'd ghosted us after that Florida trip years ago. She looked like she'd seen a ghost. Can I come in? She whispered. We sat at the kitchen table, the fluorescent overhead light humming. She fidgeted, eyes darting to the pantry, as if Linda might spring out. I heard what happened, she began. And I need to tell you something. I said nothing, arms folded, waiting. Remember that Miami trip you two went on? It wasn't just a girl's getaway. Her voice trembled. She met up with Marcus and 2 other guys. They had this arrangement. I left after one night. My chest tightened. Why now? I didn't know she was still lying to you, Kendra admitted. When I heard she got thrown out and Evie left too, I figured you'd need backup. I leaned back, letting her words settle. Did she ever talk about me? I asked. Kendra winced. She said you were boring. Safe but not exciting, she told me. Raising a kid with you felt like growing old in a waiting room. I closed my eyes. The sting of her judgment mingled with truth's bitter taste. Then I opened them. Thank you for telling me, I said. Kendra stood, tears in her eyes. I'm sorry, she whispered, and was gone. In that empty kitchen, one more pillar of Linda's house of lies tumbled. I realized I wasn't going to just survive this. I was going to demolish her entire legacy, piece by piece. The next morning, I suited up sharp, not for court but for war. Linda thought this was some emotional meltdown, a husband scorned. She had no idea she'd humiliated a man who'd spent his life building a kingdom for her to rule, and now I was coming to claim every stone back. First stop, my lawyer, Grant Lawson, pitbull in a pinstripe. I dropped a manila folder on his desk. He looked up, eyebrows arching. You're going nuclear? She wants a fight, I said. Grant smiled. Good. She's already filed for alimony, emotional distress, unstable home, coercion, hell. She even threw mental abuse in there. I chuckled. From me. Classic, he muttered, rifling through my documents, bank statements, photos of Linda with Marcus in Vegas 5 years ago, her old journal entries boasting of keeping you blind and happy. He looked up, satisfaction gleaming. She's screwed. Give me 2 weeks. I'll have her begging to settle for nothing but her suitcase and a toothbrush. I nodded. I want more. Grant paused. How much more? Everything. Her social standing, her friendships, her influencer gigs. If she built a brand on lies, I want to peel every layer off. Grant grinned. PR, social strategy, private eyes, consider it done. By noon, I'd frozen Linda's access to every joint account, canceled her credit cards, alerted my accountant to lock down our assets. I didn't care if I felt the pinch. I wanted her to feel it 100 times harder. That evening, I drove to the recreation center where Linda volunteered twice a week, her stage for playing saint and pillar of the community. I handed the director a sealed envelope. Photos of your board director moonlighting as a misappropriator of funds, screenshots of purchases paid for with donation money, and a witness statement. The director paled as I left. Word spread fast. By sunset, I got Linda's call, her voice trembling, sharp then pleading. What did you do? I let it ring 10 times before answering. You made this public the day you lied to my face for 22 years. This isn't revenge, it's correction, I said. I'm giving you a taste of what my life became. Her voice dropped, small. We can fix this, Alex. Don't throw us away. I laughed, cold and final. You threw us away the moment you climbed into that bed in Vegas. Or maybe years before, when you wrote how much you hated waking up next to me. Silence stretched between us. Then she hung up. I sat back, chest heaving, the late-night glow of my desk lamp illuminating the folder in my lap, the weapons I'd forged from truth and betrayal. The game was on, and this time, I held every winning card. Part 4. You think you're strong? I snapped, hanging up before she could answer. You haven't seen strong yet. I didn't want justice anymore. I wanted ruin. And this was only the beginning. 2 days later, my phone buzzed with an unknown caller ID. Alex? It's Taylor, came the voice. Taylor was Linda's college roommate, my daughter's godmother, the maid of honor at our wedding. Off the record? She asked. I agreed to meet at the diner on Maple, settling into a corner booth with a clear view of the door and the street outside. I didn't trust anyone from Linda's side now, not even her best friends. Taylor slid into the seat opposite me, sunglasses hiding her eyes but betraying her nerves in the way she tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. She didn't order coffee or even look at the menu. I know you have every reason to hate me, she began, voice low. But most of us had no idea who Linda really was. Most, I echoed. Taylor exhaled. A few of us suspected something. Those girls' trips, the random guys who showed up. Linda always had an excuse, covered her tracks, painted you as insecure or controlling. I scoffed. Of course she had. But after your blow-up went public, people started comparing notes. Turns out you weren't the one spinning stories, she was. I leaned back, crossing my arms. So why are you here? Taylor took a breath. Because I'm done covering for her. And because you need to brace yourself for what's next. I sat forward. She fixed me with a steady look. She's planning to flip the narrative. Cast you as the narcissist who trapped her in a loveless marriage. She's crafting a sob story. Scared young woman, forced into silence, dragging Evie in to say you mentally abused you both. My chest tightened at the thought of my little girl used as a pawn. I have proof she's lying, I said flatly. She slid an envelope across the table. These screenshots from our group chats. Voice notes she sent me about those guys. Admissions she thought she'd deleted. One where she jokes Evie looks more like Marcus than you. My hands shook as I opened it. Not from pain, but from cold determination. Why now? I asked. Taylor hesitated. Because I was one of the idiots she used. She made me lie to you. Tell you we were shopping while she was in a Miami hotel screwing someone. And when I heard she'd thrown you out, and Evie left too, I thought you needed allies. I nodded once, swallowed the lump in my throat, and folded the envelope closed. Thanks, I said. She stood. I always thought you deserved better. Then she was gone. That night I called Grant. Release everything, I told him. Photos, audio, messages, journal entries. Expose her so thoroughly no one ever takes her seriously again. Already in motion, he said, voice crackling with excitement. We've got a media strategist ready. Monday. That weekend, I stayed quiet while Linda posted 2 Instagram reels, tears in her eyes, an earnest monologue about betrayal and patriarchy, a plea for empathy. Comments poured in. She deserves peace. Men are trash. I didn't reply. I waited. Monday arrived like a freight train. At noon, our exposé dropped online. The wife who lied for 20 years, a father's story. Screenshots, audio clips, legal summaries, all laid bare. By evening, Linda's comment sections were ablaze. Sponsors dropped her. The rec center removed her from the board. Even her charity stripped her of the volunteer award they'd given her. And then, just when I thought things couldn't get stranger, I heard the front door click. No knock, no warning, just that slow creak and the sliding of sneakers on hardwood. I stayed on the couch, heart hammering. It had to be Evie. She stepped into the living room exactly at 7:42 p.m., wearing an oversized hoodie, hair tied back, as puffy from crying. For a week, Her silence had felt like a physical blow. Now, we faced each other in the dim light of the lamp. "Is it all true?" she asked finally, voice small. I didn't answer with words. I reached for the black binder on the coffee table, the same folder Grant had used to obliterate Linda's narrative, and pushed it across to her. Evie sat down, opened it, and flipped through pages of DNA results, Vegas photos, bank statements, journal entries documenting every lie. 10 minutes passed in heavy silence. Then she closed the binder with a soft thunk and leaned back, eyes fixed on the ceiling. "I thought you were just lashing out," she said, voice cracking. "Trying to punish her." I admitted, but not with lies. I never hurt her. I didn't scream at her. I wanted to give you the truth, no matter how awful. Her eyes filled with tears. "You told me to never contact you again," she whispered. "I know," I said gently. "And I'm sorry. But you deserve to know." Evie looked at me then, the doubt in her eyes shifting towards something like understanding or maybe forgiveness. "I'm sorry too," she said softly, and in that moment, I knew we might begin to heal, both of us stronger, maybe, than she ever thought I could be. Part 5. I didn't know who to believe anymore. When Evie's text blinked on my screen, "Don't contact me again," it felt like a blade twisting in my gut. 20 years of bedtime stories, science fair projects, scraped knees, life lessons, and riding a bike. Gone, just like that. I replayed her words over and over. You believed her. And when someone else cried louder, you switched sides. She winced as I spoke aloud the echoed accusation, her pain obvious in the way her shoulders slumped. "I didn't mean to choose," she began, voice quivering. "Everything happened so fast." Fast. Yeah. My head swam. I thought she needed me, and then I asked, "What about me?" The words came out soft, but they cut deeper than any yell. What was I? A broken tool, discarded the moment I didn't fit her story. "I was scared," she whispered. "So was I." The room stood still. She glanced away, eyes damp with unshed tears. I knew what I had to do. "I took a paternity test myself," I told her. "Marcus is your biological father." She closed her eyes briefly, letting the truth settle. "I already knew," she murmured. "Still, hearing you say it." I nodded. "So what now?" "I don't know," she admitted. "I want to be angry at her, but she's still my mom." "You're still Evie," I said gently. "You're the kid who needed a nightlight. But I'm not your father on paper anymore." Tears filled her eyes. "Do you still love me?" she asked. I didn't flinch. "I don't know. I want to, but I don't even know who you are now." She let herself cry, and I didn't rush in with comfort. That forgiveness chapter wasn't earned yet. After a few minutes she stood. "I'll go," she said, heading for the door. Then she turned back. "She's not okay. No friends left, no job, no plan. You took everything from her." I met her eyes. "She took everything from me. I just took it back." She opened the door. "If she does something reckless, it's on you." I arched an eyebrow. "No, Evie. If she does something reckless, it's on her. That's one thing you both never understood. Actions have consequences." The door closed behind her, and for the first time since this nightmare began, I felt peace. But it was short-lived. An hour later, the cops showed up, blue and red lights dancing across the walls like a cruel celebration. I opened the door to 2 uniformed officers, stern and silent. "Alex Carter?" the taller one asked. "Yes. There's been an accusation of domestic violence and threats against your ex-wife. We need to ask you some questions." I froze. It was a trap, Linda's final, dirty card meant to bury me alive. I didn't resist. I grabbed my coat, showed them my lawyer's card, and followed them silently. In the sterile interrogation room, I sat under harsh fluorescent lights while they read Linda's statement. She claimed I'd come to her apartment, slammed her into a wall, threatened her life if she didn't disappear. Complete fiction. "Do you have an alibi?" the officer asked. I smiled bitterly. "I was home, watching the emails of my exposé rolling in. Text timestamps will prove it." He jotted notes. "And your daughter?" "She said you seemed unstable yesterday." I leaned forward. "She came here, got the evidence herself, and confronted her mom. Ask her." After an hour, they released me, no charges, only an open investigation. Outside, I felt the cold night air slam into me, but inside, I was calmer than I'd been in weeks. My phone buzzed. "Grant." "She filed," he said. "Brace yourself." And when people drown, they grab anything. Let's get that restraining order. "I want her blocked from contacting me," I said. "If she so much as looks in my direction, hold her in contempt." "We'll file first thing," Grant promised. I hung up and watched cars drift by under streetlights. I thought of all those smiling couples inside their houses, oblivious to the rot someone hides behind closed doors. Home was silent. No laughter, no dinner smells, no Evie sneaking in to hug me goodnight. I walked to our bedroom, pulled open the drawer where I'd kept last year's love letters, and dumped them into the fireplace. I struck a match and watched the paper curl into ash. Days passed. The police investigation faded. No bruises, no witnesses. But Linda's reputation was already in ruins. Sponsors gone, social accounts suspended, former friends vanished. My phone lit up with a single new message from Evie. Sorry. I didn't reply. She'd made her choice. A month later, I finalized the divorce. No alimony, no house, no cars. Linda walked away with exactly what she brought into the marriage. In the courtroom, I caught her one last look. Hollow eyes, no smirk, only bitter regret. As we left, she whispered, "You think you won?" I met her gaze. "No," I said softly. "I didn't win. I just survived." And then I walked away. The end.